So before I start, I want to thank David and Carolyn for hosting, and for Chris for introducing me to the group. This is so cool. I was talking to Renata. We have three rhetoric professors here. Like, where does that happen? Where else do you meet them? So, and thanks everybody for being here.
Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
So magnet strategy is a strategy that tech companies use to grow when they're very big, like 100 billion plus. Some of you work for them, Google, Apple, etc. So when you are small as a startup, it's easy to grow. You have 1 million in revenue, you go 10, 20, you can double revenue every 3 months. But when you're 100 billion, it's very hard to double revenue every 3 months. So what do? You spend money on R&D, that doesn't always bear fruit. You buy companies, the integration doesn't always go well. You try going after new markets, but the product may not fit, it damages brand. So it's difficult to grow at scale. So magnet strategy is something you can pursue to grow at scale. It's only become possible now because we have companies with billion plus customers like Apple, Google, Facebook, Tencent, and financial. There are many companies who are now have billion plus customers. So that's why it's something new, and it's been happening, and I observed that it's happening, but I saw that it wasn't written about, or there wasn't a framework around it. So why is it happening? So it has become possible because of digitization. So what does digitization do? It's breaking the industry vertical boundaries. The common, like story used to be, stay within your core competency. And core competency is generally related to an industry. Oh, you are, an automobile company, just do that. Or you are a tech company, just do that. And here I have a list of all the things that become possible with digitization. Faster product development, faster customer feedback, faster market expansion, cheaper distribution, cheaper marketing, cheaper operations, better pricing, better customer support, and better decisions. And it also lays the groundwork for supervised learning, which we generally call AI. And this is not industry specific. It's happening, or parts of it are happening in every industry. So that's why it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if it's getting digitized, and if your competency is making sense of that data, then you can go into that industry. So what kind of company does it attract? So one is where user experience can be made better. For example, I use Apple Pay. It's much better experience than taking the credit card out, swiping, and it's much better. Or where value chain inefficiencies exist, like healthcare, we all know, is very inefficient. So both Apple and Google have major initiatives underway to solve that problem. Then where margins can be lowered and passed on to consumers. So these are the, let's say you're paying for a product or a credit card. Let's take Apple Card example, where the interest you pay is much lower, and you don't pay transaction charges when you go abroad, and the transaction, or what is it called, the exchange rate you get is much better. So if credit card companies start doing that, it'll lower their income and their stock will go down. So they can't do that. That's why it takes a long time for them to respond to these new changes. But a company like Apple, which is $250+ billion company, it doesn't matter to them as much as long as the top line grows. So who's pursuing it? So here's Apple, Tencent. It was started mainly in China. Tencent, I would say, is the best example. They're doing everything you can imagine: lending money, payments, their WhatsApp, WeChat, everything's in Tencent camp. So one thing I want to highlight here: normally in strategy, you have a technology risk or market risk, or both. But in magnet strategy, you don't have market risk or technology risk. You're basically going into new market that exists. And this is not a new concept. We used to have conglomerates like GE or Siemens, where the idea was you can now go into have been different industries which have different economic cycles. So your earnings are streamlined. So let's say when one is up, the other is down, or you have synergies. You have one central thing that can, let's say, central IT that serves all the industry. But in digitize or conglomerate 2.0, maybe when industry doesn't matter, it's not about synergy, it's about digitization. I did it in 5 minutes.
You did.
Preston?
Antitrust?
It's tricky because antitrust, generally that comes into play one with size but the idea was when the consumers are harmed, the consumers lose choice. But in what, it's not straightforward, but in what we are seeing, consumers are actually benefiting with the magnet strategy. Apple Pay is better than credit card. Healthcare, whatever Apple comes out with or Google comes out with, they just bought Fitbit, would be better. Amazon is expanding into new things, but they're bringing the pricing down. So that's why it's tricky. It becomes more challenging in terms of, Facebook, where the advertising-based model, and then people don't have a choice.
Sorry,
Renata?
this is a review for everyone else, but what does antitrust mean?
So it's basically government mechanism. I forget if it's FTC or one of the government bodies, where if the company gets too big, or when one company is buying another company, like Microsoft was thought of being broken up, or when, let's say, I forget the name.
AT&T.
AT&T was broken. So basically, when the size is too big, the government is concerned that the consumers are harmed because they don't have a choice. And so because the big company has pricing power, kind of a monopoly. But now it's kind of happening again with Facebook, Google, Amazon. You don't have a choice, but they're very good at PR. Google probably spends more money, or either Google or Facebook, I don't remember. They're the highest spender of lobbying money in DC. Of all the industries, more than oil. So they are,
Which is it, Google or Facebook?
either one of them, I forget.
Probably both.
But
Is in that example, is Google and antitrust, or is the process called antitrust?
it's a government process that's called antitrust hearing or antitrust review.
And that's when they're.
And Google's trying to get the government not to
Yeah, I
break
understand
them
that
up.
part, I just don't really get how to use the
Yeah.
word. Okay.
Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
The government could go in and say Google is making it smaller.
Yeah.
So that's why they've got 10,000
Which
lobbyists.
has been proposed.
So trust is the too big company, antitrust is breaking it up.
Yeah. Same.
What industries or maybe companies have surprised you in terms of how well this has worked for them, or how poorly it has worked for them? Like, which industries have just not been possible for companies to break into? Or
I used to work for Siemens, which is a conglomerate 1.0, you can say.
Yeah.
So they had this idea that they're B2B businesses, industrial. They were in telecom equipment. They're in nuclear power plant. They're in trains, and they also made handsets. I actually, in 2001 or 2, I made a case at Siemens that they should make a cell phone which has a colored screen.
Wow.
And I couldn't convince them of color, but the compromise I made, or they made, was blue and black instead of black and white. So that was like the coolest thing at the time. It was Siemens S40. You can look up online, the first non-black and white phone. So in that case, consumer cycles having a brand is very different than the industrial things where it's all about 5 nines of reliability, safety, regulation. when these companies try to make consumer products, it generally doesn't work. How much synergy there is, the cycles are different. They never understood the power of a brand, so that doesn't work. In recent cases, I think Apple Card is working. Amazon's advertising business was like, they pressed a button and suddenly it's like $3 billion business.
Yeah.
But I think Facebook is facing challenges. They tried to launch Libra. You may have heard of their, like a cryptocurrency effort, where the idea was you have these 2-point-something billion users monthly, so they can create commerce between each other and send money and avoid paying these, banks in the middle. So similar idea, but that hasn't worked. I don't think it'll work either, because Facebook, tech world, is used to creating new markets. They succeed, but when we go into the markets that already exist, have been around for years, we are not good at that. It hasn't happened. We can make small
Interesting.
improvements, but it takes a long time. It's like healthcare. It's almost 20% of GDP. Why isn't that getting fixed? Because, huh?
Lobbyists. Yeah, no.
Lobbyists, yes, but if you drill down, it's basically too many losers. A lot of people will lose a lot of money. Yeah, so it's easy to go into a white space, create a new market. But banking, why is it so hard?
Yeah.
And the SWIFT system, like if you're not in, SWIFT system is banks are connected worldwide. That's how you send money, and they charge you like $25. The actual cost is maybe 2 cents or something very little.
Yeah.
So it's harder to, go into spaces where there are a lot of losers. If you will create a lot of losers. Yeah.
There's a lot of examples of this that I've seen. Like one example is with Amazon. Like their storefront loses them money. I don't know if that's changed recently, but I know for a really, really long time it wasn't profitable. I don't think it is profitable now, but they make their money off of AWS, they make their money off advertising and all these other things. So we're seeing this coupling where you have this one small profitable part of your business that's bankrolling the rest, the loss leader. And how I see that being an issue is how can you break that apart? Because you have Amazon funneling all this money in from other parts of the business into their storefront, and their storefront takes smaller players out of the game because they can't compete with that. So that's like something I'm seeing a lot with a lot of these tech companies. There's just other people who just cannot compete, and it's really difficult to split that apart. Have we seen this in the past? Is this relatively new?
Yeah. No, so that concept is called loss leader. So it's been around from the days of grocery stores. So that concept in grocery store world is you want to get people in the store. And so the products which people need to use almost daily or regularly, like eggs or milk, most of the stores don't make money on that. And they're always in the back of the store. So you go walk through the store and you see all this stuff around you, where if the stuff you're seeing at the eye level, somebody's paying for it to be there. You have to pay. So they don't make money on that. Same thing.
My dad's job growing up.
So I think the retail world, if you just bought when you buy to the store, they won't be in business. I mean, the whole thing is designed around making you buy. So I don't see anything wrong with that because you have to see the business more holistically. Yeah, and Amazon, by the way, it's profitable, the e-commerce business in the US. Worldwide, I don't know, but US is profitable. But the point is, you have to do that. It's a good strategy. To compete in a low margin business, let's say Amazon, grocery, whatever they sell is not high margin business. So if I can drive other players out of business by lowering my prices, and I can make my money with AWS or advertising, I would do that. That's good business strategy. But it has effects on society, like small, mom and pop shops. We want them. It's part of the culture, history, legacy. So it's the government's job to make regulations that they cannot do that. Like in France, none of the bookshops are out of business. You go to Paris, there are all these bookshops. How are they around? Because they passed regulation that online you cannot sell a book cheaper than offline. So I mean, because there are ways around it. So, but that I think is the government regulation's job. What I see, you see all this pushback against, businesses. It's again the government politicians, rhetoric people doing a great job. So I don't see there's anything wrong with capitalism. What's wrong is with the governance. Government is not creating policy that helps citizens and protects us from manipulation, etc. If the government wants, they can pass one law. Facebook is responsible for everything they publish. That's it. Everything will change. The whole world will change. So why aren't they doing that? It's not a. I don't see that as it. But they have somehow pushed it to, it's capitalism is bad and we need. So there's nothing wrong with capitalism. It's the government policy. Governance is facing challenges.
Question?
I think that just wanted to comment on how that ties in with digitization. So that creates an ability to compete for small startups. Can just do something that Facebook puts out a product a year ago. By now, it's out of date. Are they going to invest into updating it? Somebody in their room or their house can use new technology that came out since then and all of a sudden be producing a product that's better, which is kind of makes me wonder about like the satellite thing too. Like by the time you put something up in the sky, you're 20 years out of date and the technology has come so far since then, which is a lot harder I think maybe in the mechanical world. Like it just doesn't change as fast. Like cars just don't change as fast because engines don't change as fast. But in the digital world, it's you blink and you're out of date.
Yeah, but I mean that's also changing. You have Tesla now.
Oh right.
It's basically has
Figuring
changed
out
the
how to
entire
get into it.
industry.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time a company has to come from outside the industry. Because none of the tech in Tesla is new. We
Right.
had lithium-ion batteries, I don't know how many decades ago.
Yeah.
But somebody comes from outside, challenges, Apple wasn't into phone business. Like you can see videos of who was the former Steve Ballmer. He's laughing at Apple, like iPhone is stupid, BlackBerry, who doesn't want a keyboard? All this is online. Everybody was laughing.
Yeah.
And first iPhone was not even 3G, it was 2.5G. And that was also, I'm in the tech world, so I know all these stories. So it's somebody from the outside has to come and challenge. And I think that you can do that in the US much better than any other part. Well, maybe China, if you have the right connections. But it's still the most fair game, and the fastest way to create a company and business still is US.
Fascinating.
Thank you.